So in Exodus 12:48, when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. I get it. You read that and you go, you can't come to my Passover. You got an uncircumcised male. And you let the letter bring death to an entire family and members that have been risen from the dead in Messiah, born again. Because the letter kills, and that's what was going on in your life, our life, your lives. The letter brings you to death.
Right. But with that statement also, what they say is, whoever partook in the flesh of Messiah, who is our Passover lamb, is not being redeemed, is not being
Yes.
delivered,
Right.
is not being saved.
Yes. That's what they're saying.
Because you're not circumcised.
That's exactly what that's saying.
You're not allowed to partake in Messiah because you're not circumcised.
That's exactly what they're saying. They're saying, you know what, Tina? You can't partake of the reality because the shadow doesn't make sense. The shadow says this. The reality is Messiah is shed abroad in your heart. You've had a circumcised heart. So the reality of Passover that we understand in being Yeshua, you can't take the very symbol of what that always pointed to because of the circumcision. That's going back to the letter. That's going backwards. That's not going forward. Thank you. It's a blasphemy in the Holy Spirit. Yeah. Hatred and enmity.
Once you've seen it and you sin against that, only a fearful expectation.
That's right.
Of judgment.
That's right.
So it's
It's
a denial of him.
a denial of him. And yeah, going back on your faith. When you know how many of people have left their first love that you know of? They've left their first love. They've left the house of David and the Tabernacle of David. They've left the key of David somewhere in the trash, and they've gone back and denied Messiah. What a travesty. Not in this house. So check this out. So I'm going to play this a little bit. I'm playing here. Do you not think that we would have seen further instructions for the Gentiles that would read something like this? Now I'm making this up. This isn't thus saith Yahweh. Just so you all know. But I'm having some fun because this is how I do things. It helps me understand. Me and my wife play a lot of times the Yeshua role play game. What would Yeshua do? And what, it's fun. So the Yeshua role play is, let's take this one for example. So I'm back from the grave, and there's a couple Gentiles over here, and I want them to take of my body and my blood. I want to offer that to them, but they're not physically circumcised, so really I can't come to them. I mean, this is just an example. You think about, what would Yeshua do? Really, is he really that focused on that flesh? Or does he see what's in that person? And does he see what's in that person? Because he drank out of the Samaritan's water pitcher. If he was really that concerned about the letter, but in Messiah, love trumped the letter over and over and over again. We did a teaching on that, and it's really cool to see. So here's kind of how I would, and I put this up here, you can read it with me. Since the Gentiles are starting off with some very basic instructions, unlike as what we have all had in our lives, learning Messiah in the synagogues every Sabbath, which also profited us for centuries. I messed that up. We got to do it again. Since the Gentiles are starting off with some very basic instructions, unlike us, that have had all our lives learning Moses in the synagogues every Sabbath, which has also profited us for centuries, we have decided not to have them become circumcised until they mature. Therefore, please instruct them not to attend the feast of Passover until they mature enough for physical circumcision, even though they have been filled with the Holy Spirit like us, and even though we know that they have the blood of Messiah, the Lamb that takes away the sins of the world. We need to keep them from observing the shadow that was always pointing to the reality that they now know, because we must keep the law according to the instructions of Exodus 12:48. Boy, that doesn't make any sense. I read that and read it and read it again, and I thought, that doesn't make any sense. That's why he didn't say that. And I'm just an Okie, I think a better interpretation of verse 21. So we've had all these other interpretations. This is something I really prayed about and pored over this, and I believe if there was a way it could have been said maybe different, where it might have fit with what we see in the Tabernacle of David, it could have been said something that maybe this way. Maybe this way. I'm not saying thus saith Yahweh. We're having some fun here together. Bear with me. It's important that all the Gentiles stay away from things that would pollute their temple worship, especially now that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Look at those of the circumcision, after being students of the law of Moses for centuries, yet still unprofitable when it came to walking in love, from a circumcised and obedient heart. They that carried out certain commandments in the flesh, even physical circumcision, they could never achieve what Yah always desired for them, a relationship as with sons. Although having a formula of godliness in the letter of the law, they still had no power to worship in spirit and truth, and constantly were led away to worship idols, even mixing pagan worship in the very temple of Yahweh, thus bringing judgment upon the nation time and time again, as also shown in the 7 sin cycles of Judges. That's how I look at that. I think Acts 15:21 has been so twisted that we've had to take the party line. But you know what? We don't have to take the party line, because it doesn't make any sense in the Tabernacle of David, does it? It's not a thing where you're going to mature and you. Who says and when is that? I mean, who determines that? Isn't there going to be some determination of who's mature now? Because you're going to give them 5 years. I mean, why didn't they say, okay, we're going to give them 5 years? And after 5 years of being in the synagogues every Sabbath day, like we had for centuries, man, and it really worked for us. But as soon as that happens, then, because they come to full maturity, like we came to maturity. Why? We came to maturity because we spent in the synagogues every Sabbath for centuries. That's how we came to spiritual maturity. Doesn't make sense, does it? So I kind of think that's what we've been duped by. So we understand Hebrews 10:16 says, "This is the covenant that I'll make with them after those days. After those days, saith Yahweh, I'll put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them, and their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Now where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Yeshua, by a new and living way, which he hath consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh, and having a high priest over the house of Elohim, let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of belief and faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and good works. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." That's the instruction that you get to walk out, because you're walking in the Tabernacle of David with the key of David. So our new and living way is access into this tabernacle. We should now be provoking one another not to be physically circumcised and focus on the entire letter of the law of Moses, but we should be provoking each other to love and do good works. We have the key of loving, right? So check this out. John 13:34. "A new commandment I give unto you," and we touched on this last night, but it's good in this context too. "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another." You want the litmus test? It's love. You don't have it? You don't have a spirit in operation in you. I'm not going to say you don't have a spirit. What I'm going to say is you've not submitted to the Holy Spirit to let him bring you into maturity. And you've had how much time every Sabbath to come into spiritual maturity? But you've wanted to go back to what people had for centuries that never brought perfection. It only brought death. Because if it brought perfection, why did Messiah have to come? If it brought true life change, why did Messiah have to die? So, because many have been taught that they have been restored back to the Tabernacle of Moses, many have felt unclean, and hear me, unworthy and unfit to serve as priest. Because you've gone under bondage and shackles. You see it on people's faces. The very first Messianic congregation we went into, nobody would look at my daughters and my wife in the face. They looked down. They all had their heads covered. They looked down. They're very somber. I'm thinking, to me, I'm reading this as a young guy in the faith, and I'm thinking, this is called a feast of Yahweh. The Sabbath is listed as the first feast in Leviticus 23. So I'm thinking I'm going to come with the body and we're going to have a feast. And I show up and I've got these people going. This guy gets up and starts twisting Scripture and Revelations and says that the New Jerusalem, remember what he was saying? That the New Jerusalem is not the body of Messiah. It's the Jerusalem over there that they're rebuilding. I'm like, I can't see that as you're not looking me in the face. And we're all trying to be, because we're excited. It's Sabbath and we're young and we're wanting to meet people and we're like, hi, how you doing? And they're like, my girls are going, woo, are we in a cult or what? And this is the guy, he's part of the Hebraic Roots Network, by the way. So we go to him, and I go to him. He never called me back, and I wonder why. But I go to him, and because I'm wanting to keep the Sabbath, and so I'm going to interview pastors, and I'm gonna find. So I interviewed a Church of God guy. I interviewed called a Seventh Day Adventist, and I interviewed this Messianic Jewish rabbi. So I go to his place, and I sit with him, and he gives me this prayer book of the Kabbalah. And he goes, and I'd already studied that and thought, okay, I know I'm not going there. And he goes, Mike, he goes, if you would submit to coming here, he goes, we will teach you the sod level of Scripture. I'm like, okay, well, I know where that's coming from. It's Talmudic. I don't see that in any New Testament writing. That's come up, it's not Yeshua's words. So I thought, well, let's give him a chance. We go there, and that happens to us on Sabbath. We all leave going, that was the weirdest thing that ever happened to us. And these are supposed to be people that love my Messiah. It's a shame. And you've been there. Our first Sukkot wasn't any better. It was weirder. But still, we're trying to love, man. We're trying to figure this out and love these people. And they're saying that we're unclean and that we're dirty and and then we're like, well, what? I mean, I have a heart to, what do I got to do to be clean? Because I want to be in your club. I want you to accept me, no, I'm not that way. I don't care if you don't accept me, but I want to look at the Word and say, and I would tell people, listen, if I see it, I'll do it. I don't care. I'll live in a tent or a van down by the river. That's from my old heathen past. But I'll do anything if y'all tells me to. I'll grow my beard past my belly button. I'll put on a linen robe all the way to the floor. I'll put tzitzit on that wrap around my head as a turban. I'll do whatever I'm supposed to do if I see it. But please don't come and bring your judgment, critical, hateful attitude into my camp and insult my daughters to where they cry their tears at night. And you're calling this a love feast? Hello? It's a hate feast, man. Not in the Tabernacle of David. Hallelujah? So, let me read this because this is good. So, the understanding that Yah desires mercy over sacrifice and that he has raised up the tabernacle of David for the multitudes to gather in his presence is very freeing. Knowing that he has given us the key of David, his spirit to love like him, is a game changer. This is the game changer, folks. This is what changes lives. This is the good news. This is the gospel. The gospel is not, good news, you get to go be all the letter keeper now. Good news, buddy. And come on, think about it. We were so excited to follow and obey Yahweh, and it was like, okay, here, you want to obey? Do all that. But let's face it, you don't even do it. And we won't get into that because I can point out, and I ask people all the time, do you really want me to go there with you? Do you really want me to point out all the ways you're breaking the Torah? Because if I sit here with you, I'll show you all the ways you're breaking the Torah. Well, when I see it, I'll do it. Well, let me show you right now. We'll sit down together and I'll show you right now and you'll see how you're breaking the Torah, and then you got to go do it right now. You're going to have that baby and be separate for 80 days from your wife's bed. Do that one. Let's just start there. Let's just start by your wife on her menstrual cycle. Don't even sleep in the same bed. Put her out in the red tent. Let's start with that. Well, I don't see that yet, brother. I don't see that. Well, you're blind because that's what the said. You said you want to do all that you can see. So, knowing that he has given us the key of David, his spirit, to love like him is a game changer. Do not let anyone bewitch you and subvert you, set a stumbling block of the law before you, by convincing you that you have been restored to the tabernacle of Moses, because you are disqualified to serve as priests there. But we are a royal priesthood, grafted into the very house of David through the promised seed of David, Yeshua. Messiah longs to have fellowship with you at his table. Remember, 2 Samuel 9:13, so Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and he was lame in both of his feet. You bring out some other great scriptures there. So under the Levitical priesthood, check this out. The lame were disqualified to eat in fellowship around the altar, and they were disqualified to eat the showbread in Yah's presence on the Sabbath. You realize that if you were to have been a lame person and you were to have been a Levite, disqualified. You'd have never had Yah's presence, face bread in his presence, ever. You're unclean. But under the Melchizedek order of Messiah, he brings us in as sons into the very presence without a veil, and lets us sit at his table and eat at the king's table, although we're physically lame and imperfect. David's life exemplifies love over the letter. It exemplifies love over the letter, that Yah desires mercy over sacrifice. David wore the ephod, sacrificed as a priest, shared the sacrifice of the altar with the multitudes, even the women, and didn't even keep the feast. Guess what? He didn't even keep the feast 100% according to the letter, yet he was never condemned. And you're worried about your feast days. You're worried about your calendar. You're worried about how you say the name. Well, David didn't really have much to worry about at all. If anybody should have understood the letter, you'd think David would have. So check this out. Here's the proof of that. Nehemiah 8:17. And all the congregation of them that were come again out of the captivity made booths and sat under the booths. For since the days of Yeshua, the son of Nun, unto that day had not the children of Israel done so. And there was very great gladness. So they hadn't followed the exact understanding of the law from the time of Joshua. So if they didn't do that, David didn't do it. I mean, I don't even know what David did if he kept the feast. And I mean, how did he even keep the feast? It's not all recorded. But guess what? If he didn't do all the sacrificial system by the book, I'm wondering if he actually kept the feast that way. Do you really think that if he's dancing before the presence of Yah in the tabernacle, and it's on the Feast of Sukkot, that he's going to take a break, go down to Gibeah, climb the hill, do the altar sacrifice there? Think about that. That'd be very taxing on your feast day, wouldn't it? On your Shabbat. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Praise and honor, the presence of Yahweh, the ark is here. But we got to go to the altar and sacrifice, because these are the sacrifices given on the feast. Make sense? Just bringing some points up. David had the heart of Yah, even though he was not perfect. Yah delighted to show mercy to his people. Don't allow a yoke of bondage to be placed over your neck. It's all about covenant. Kids, we're not done yet. It's all about covenant. We do have a heart, and we do have a heart to obey our covenant obligations. But that is where the book of the law and the book of the covenant division must come in. And he leads us by his Spirit to fulfill the law in love. I'm not saying I'm a run around breaking the law. I'm not saying I have a heart to be a lawbreaker. I've been called that, even recently. You have no heart to follow Yah's law. You're heartless. You just don't want to follow his law. You're making excuses. You're whatever. By people that say they love me. So you speak out of one side of your mouth and you say, well, I love you. You're my brother. Or then you say you have no heart to keep his law. You have no heart after Yahweh. Really? Tell David that. Because David didn't either, according to that interpretation. Do you see that tonight? A couple more scriptures and we're going to wrap up. 2 Samuel 21, then there was a famine in the days of David, 3 years, year after year. And David, how many years? 3 years. Year after year. And David inquired of Yahweh, and Yahweh answered, it is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel. You realize it says that for a reason. Now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the children of Israel had sworn unto them, and Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of Israel and Judah. This is very cool, because they were actually Hivites. They were a tribe of Canaanites that Israel was instructed to destroy, but they tricked Joshua into making a covenant with them in Joshua chapter 9. And so Joshua makes a covenant with them in Israel before Yahweh, in Yahweh's name, with Canaanites. Wrap that on your noodle for a little bit. They were told to go kill all the Canaanites. Well, he's making a covenant with Canaanites. All this is very prophetic, isn't it, of where we're at today? But it doesn't fit with the law thing. It doesn't fit with the letter. So he says, so Joshua 9, just to give you a piece of this, but all the princes said unto all the congregation, we have sworn unto them by Yahweh of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. Why? Because they've sworn on oath, and they've taken Yahweh's name and Israel, by the Lord Yahweh of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. So they enter a covenant. Well, how amazing that Israel had made a covenant with the remnant of these Canaanites. They swear in Yah's name, and they were grafted into Israel. Do you guys understand that the Gibeonites became the hewers of wood and the drawers of water for the house of Elohim? So these Canaanites now are coming in and working. That's what he says. He goes, okay, you know what? You tricked us. We're in covenant. We're not going to kill you, but you're going to work in the house of my Yah, and you're going to be woodcutters for the altar and water for the pitchers. That's what you're going to do all your days. And they're like, thank you, man. I don't got to die. Wait a minute. You're going to punish me by letting me work in your house? A Canaanite? Really? Okay, a good deal. Let's do that. So they actually become like Levites. Do you see that? They actually become like Levites. Bringing wood for the altar, water for the purification, in use in Yah's house. This is a prophetic picture of the Melchizedek, royal priesthood of both Israel and Gentile nations now serve together. We all serve together. Here's something on the way up here that really hit me, and I was like, here's what that means. Check this out. At the end of Zechariah, where he says, there will no longer be a Canaanite in the house of Yah. That's after he just already went through all these things about purification, even of the base pots, even of the common pots in the house will be called unto Yahweh, holy unto Yahweh. Okay? So he's even purified and called the common things holy. So Zechariah then says, there will never be another Canaanite in the household of Yahweh. And that's how he closes the book, right? Remember that? Here's what I believe that means in context of the Gibeonites. Because the Gibeonites were still despised by Saul. He tried to kill them because in his eyes they were still Canaanites. But when Yeshua comes and made covenant and peace with these guys, you and me, the Canaanites, guess what happens then? We're no longer considered Canaanites. And when he comes back, we're grafted in. There's no longer a Canaanite in the house because he doesn't consider us Canaanites. We're sons of covenant. Sons of David. You son of David. I've been having fun with that one this week. So that's going to be kind of this motto we use together. Ilya, you're a son of David. Amen. You know what? When I'm driving along and I want to say something in the past, I'd have said, you're a son of, I'm going to say, you are a son of David. Well, I hope you're a son of David. I pray that you become a son of David. Or I'm going to say something like this. I'm a son of David. I've been called to a higher royal priesthood. I bless you. I mean, it's going to be hard. Right? Because in the flesh, but in the spirit, you can do all these things. I'm excited about this life because with this understanding, it really brings freedom. So here's what I believe that the story, this is so amazing. So let's go back and finish this. We're almost done. And so 2 Samuel 21, 3 through 9 says, it's 8:10, we're going to be there. What shall I do for you, and wherewith shall I make the atonement? How can I make an atonement for you Canaanites? That ye may bless the inheritance of Yahweh. Because it's really important that you Canaanites bless the house of Yahweh to me. Really? Saul didn't care. He was like, kill him. And the Gibeonites said unto him, we will have no silver nor gold of Saul, nor of this house, his house. Neither for us shalt thou kill any man in Israel. And he said, what ye shall say, that will I do for you. And they answered the king, the man that consumed us and that devised against us that we should be destroyed from the remaining of any of the coast of Israel, let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up unto Yahweh in Gibeah of Saul. Well, what was going on in Gibeah of Saul? Remember? The Tabernacle of Moses and the altar. They want to take these sons of Saul, and they want to take them there to the Tabernacle of Moses, and unto Yahweh, they want to hang them. Look what happens. And they say, and whom Yahweh did choose. And the king said, I'll give him. But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul. Why? because of Yahweh's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. But the king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah, whom she bare unto Saul, Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Saul, whom she brought up for Adriel, the sons of Brazali, that must be Italian, and the Mahalathites, and he delivered them into the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before Yahweh, and they fell on all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. They hung them before Yahweh. I see a couple things here. I see, first of all, the only other place you see Mephibosheth is here. These 2 sons of Saul. But they have 2 very opposite positions. One is a son of David, now because he's been grafted in, because of the covenant with his father. David has that loving uncle relationship. He's grafted in. So he doesn't give his life. He gives the other son of Saul. The other Mephibosheth, right? We're all a bunch of Mephibosheths. The only thing that separates it is the covenant you have with Messiah. And there's so much there that I haven't even exhausted it. And so if you see something, let's talk about it. But so this story is saying, Yah has caused a famine in the land of his chosen people due to the covenant breach of Saul against the tribe of Canaanites. They asked for 7 of Saul's sons, the descendants of the king's house, whom Yah chooses to give for this breach. Yah is allowing these lives. Do you understand the significance of Yah allowing the lives of the anointed king's house at one point, Saul's house, for the lives of the Canaanites? Here we see 2 Mephibosheths. One is spared due to covenant, one is given due to a breach of covenant. They're hung in Gibeah of Saul before Yahweh. Remember, the ark rested there for 60 years. When David took the ark to Jerusalem, there was still a sacrificial altar still in Gibeah. So these Gibeonites hang them before Yahweh, or where he was worshipped with the sacrificial system at Gibeah of Saul. So they took the judgment back to Saul's house. What left Saul's house? What left that place that Saul was from? The Ark of the Presence. The judgment went back there, and 7 sons of Saul hung before the altar. But not at David's tabernacle. Mephibosheth was at the table lame. So like Saul, out of our zeal, he started killing the Gentile tribes of the Gibeonites who were in covenant with Israel by the name of Yahweh. There will be zealous Jews and Gentiles who see themselves as one with the false Jewish house, persecute those Gentiles who have been grafted into the royal priesthood of Messiah. They will disregard our covenant and try to make us follow the Noahide laws, which following Yeshua will be charged as breaking the law of blasphemy. Just as Saul had no problem allowing an Edomite to kill the priest, the anti-Messiah who is jealous of King David's seed will have no problem persecuting the royal priesthood. They put them to death in the beginning of the barley harvest. So it was Passover, first fruits time. So in summary, I think it's a very big deal to turn against the priestly order of Yeshua. After gaining access to the Tabernacle of David, for us to then go back under the law. Now, I've heard all kinds of things in commentaries about under the law. Well, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean under the law. I mean, that wasn't really a bondage, right? It wasn't. It doesn't mean under. I mean, it's not really a yoke that you go under. It doesn't mean under then, because they're whatever. It doesn't mean that. It can't mean that we go under because it wasn't bondage. Well, we've seen all night it was. And so, to go back under the law with the yoke of bondage as you try and resurrect the Tabernacle of Moses is denying Messiah. It's losing the faith once delivered, once for all, by his blood delivered to you. It's denying him. It's denying his priesthood. It's denying his order. That's why it's called the order of the Melchizedek. It's the order. He established it. What he establishes and sets in order, let no man try to take out of order. Why do you want to take it out of order? By saying that you can't see it spiritually. Well, but maybe it's because you've spent many Sabbaths upon many Sabbaths studying from the veiled. I, for one, I don't want to study the veiled. I want to look into the light of Messiah's face. I want to go back to the Tabernacle of David. I want to dance before him. I want to let him mock and laugh at you. Let people mock and laugh at you. Yeshua's a fool. That's right, I'll be a fool for him. I'm a fool too. We'll dance as a fool. When Micaiah comes out and says, what are you doing, you fool? Listen, I'm going to do it, and you think that's bad, sister? You ain't seen nothing yet. So here's this. We're going to have Sukkot, a regional Sukkot. We're planning that too. So you guys want to come back to Sukkot with us. And if you come to Sukkot, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to try to make this happen, if Tina will help me, and Angela. I'm going to get shirts for all the women that come to Sukkot. And these shirts are going to have the Sukkot, Melchizedek Sukkot shirt, right? And it's going to say, I've been circumcised, ask me how.
That's for you and I.
And then we're going to take these shirts, and we're going to go to the next Purim party around the block. We're going to wear them there. And I've been circumcised, ask me how, right? And and it's going to be fun. So if you want a shirt, that's the sign-up fee. You got to sign up. And I've been circumcised, ask me how. And so tomorrow, a lot of you won't be able to be here. Some of you can't be here tomorrow. So I had that plan to tell you this other motto is son of David. But I want to be a son of David, don't you? In the context of, I'm not a slave. I'm a son. And you are. You've been set free. It's Jubilee. It's 8:18. Sun is set. We've got a fire going on downstairs. We've had a great day and feast together. I hope you guys have enjoyed the word as I've enjoyed giving it and speaking it to you and hearing it from you as well. Because we're feeding each other here. This is a priesthood. This is what we do. You guys feed me too. I feed you. You feed me. We're a priest together. We're eating the bread, the body together. We're sharing. That's right. That's right. So we're sharing what we have in that covenant. And I want us to love each other like that. That's the goal here. I so long for that love, man. Isn't that what the world needs? What the world? No, I'm kidding. But isn't that really what the world needs? I do that too much. Everything's a song. But so I've been entrained all my life. What do you expect? It all comes out. But with the world, we really need love. And so the world really needs to see Messiah in us. If they don't see Messiah in us, tomorrow we're going to talk about the house of David, because there's something different. So now if you have the key of David that unlocks the door that takes you to the tabernacle of David, the house of David the Messiah is in has all authority. We sang it today, all authority. It's his house. There's also been a house transfer. The house of David means something.